So here's a quick tutorial on making chord charts in Planning Center. So here in Safari, we are on Planning Center on a song page. Before you get started, you want to make sure you have the correct arrangement selected over on the left-hand side. So we'll start start from scratch. We'll add a new arrangement. Let's say this is Spanish. Here again. Length, not super important at this stage. We'll say 530. This is fairly important to keep on here, just because it'll end up on the chord chart. That's in 4/4. Here we go. At this point, you have an opportunity if you want to download lyrics from Song Select, you can do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you a different way to do that. If you have a Praise Charts account, and you can import whatever we've already bought here as well. That's another option. So we're going to go and submit that. So it's going to ask you for a key. Let's do, I think the original key is D. You can add alternate keys here, which are just capoed keys if you want to at this point. You can do that later as well. Again, option to import Praise Chart purchases. Also from Song Select, you have options to download chord charts that will automatically connect with as well. Again, for Spanish, it's because this is not a Spanish-specific. Planning Center doesn't recognize this as a Spanish-specific CCLI number identity. If we download the chart, it's going to be in English. I'm going to go ahead and unclick that. Great. So here we have the Spanish version. Here again, these categories we filled out already, but you can edit them here if you need to. You can add a sequence here if you want as well. So again, another way to add files before we get to making our own chord chart, go to this little plus sign. This is where you can add YouTube videos. If you want to, you can search and add videos here. You can do it via links. If you have particular links from Song Select, again, you want to import lyrics. If we have Praise Chart purchases, that'll show up there as well. So there's that. Praise Chart's pretty rare that we'll have stuff for that. Song Select, it's literally searching the entire Song Select library, so high chance that that's in there. We're not going to add anything right at this time. Here you can add keys. Again, where the original key's in D. Let's say for me this last weekend I sang this in C, so I'm going to add a chord chart in C as well. Again, you have an opportunity to download that key from Song Select, which we decided here wasn't a good idea just because it's going to be in English. You can add alternate keys as well. So you wanted to add, we're going to say that person's going to be reading in the key of G because they're a beginning guitar player. It's going to say Capo 5 on the chart. That's a really convenient thing to do as well. Cool. So we're going to go to lyrics and chords. This is where we're going to begin to make our own chord chart. So I'm going to click that. What's really important here, the easiest way to do this is just to make sure this original key is the key that you're making this chart in. So if this original key says D, the easiest thing to do is to make sure that when I make this chart, I'm making it in the key of D. Otherwise, it's going to be a little messy. So there's that. On this left-hand side, this is the part that we're going to be editing. This is where we're going to be making the chart. On the right-hand side here, this is just showing what the final product is going to look like. So as we make the chord chart, it's going to refresh, update over here. And you'll see in a little bit why the two don't look exactly the same, but this is what this here on the right-hand side is what's going to be the final product. So over here in my browser is just another way to import lyrics. That's really easy. I just Googled the lyrics for here again. I'm going to highlight, open up the rest of the lyrics, highlight, copy, and then just paste. Okay. So I'm going to start by putting headings in here for intro, verse, chorus, etc. I'm going to give a little space. And then anytime you make headings, it's really nice to do them in all caps because that automatically, Planning Center will automatically make that heading bold. So intro, we'll put verse 1 up here. This is the chorus. Here's verse 2. Now it just depends. Here we have another chorus down here. I'm going to choose it just to make it simpler for this example to not repeat the chorus. I'll just put a note instead for the band to go back to the chorus and just leave the heading, and people will look back up here. If you want to copy and paste this chorus after you put the chords in and put it down here, that's fine too. It's actually going to be chorus times 2, and this is the bridge. And the bridge gets repeated. So there's our headings. Now adding chords. There's a couple ways to do it. I'll show you first the way I prefer to do it, and that's what they call their Pro Chord tool. All you got to do is use a bracket, then put the chord, then close the bracket off. And you'll see on the right here, created this D. The brackets don't show up. It's just showing the chord within the brackets. What's really nice about this is this attaches the chord to the syllable of the word. So no matter what key you're in, it's not going to move. It's always going to be attached to that syllable. So again, if I were to open up, this isn't going to be correct for the song, but just for sake of example, I like to put a dash if there's a chord in the middle of the word. If I want to attach let's say a G, it's always going to be attached to that syllable, the last syllable of beginning, no matter what. Whether the key changes, anything, it's always going to be attached to the syllable. That's the way I prefer to do chords. Again, if there are sharps or anything in it, a slash, D over F sharp, it's going to read all that as a chord. It's going to keep it bold. It's going to attach it to the chord chart. M for minor, a small m. You say it was a G minor. It's going to recognize that over here on the right side as well. The other way you can do this, again, would be the traditional way we often make chord charts like in word processors. On the right-hand side here, I can make a space. I can put the chord right over the word. I can do a lot of spaces and then put a G over that as well. The reason why I don't like this as much, because if the key changes, and let's say this is now like an F sharp, and this is, this isn't going to be correct, and let's say this is a C sharp. What happens is because there are added symbols now, it's going to start bumping the chords. It's a little off of the beginning of that, off of the word now, and multiply that. If there are several chords within this line, that problem is just going to be compounded, which is why I like the Pro Chord, because it's always going to attach to the syllable. It doesn't matter if the chords change or not. So that's why I prefer using the Pro Chord method for adding chords. Just a couple other little last things. For intros and interludes, my preference and kind of our standard right now is to make vertical lines for measure breaks, and then slashes for individual beats. So let's say this is D for 2 beats, G for 2 beats. I'm going to put a slash for beat 2, G for beat 3, another slash for beat 4. Unless, let's say, like the next measure is an A for the whole measure, I'm not going to put an A and 3 slashes. I'm just going to leave A and close off the measure just like that. Same thing for interludes. Last thing, and this is pretty common. Just a reminder. Let's say at the end of verse 1 here on the word B, it's let's go to the chorus. Last word of the chorus, last chord. Let's say that's going to be a D. But that D is the same D that's going to be in the beginning of an interlude as well. It's not 2 measures of D, it's the same chord. Then common way to make sure the band members know that is to put the D at the end of the chorus in parentheses, just like that. Cool. A couple more things in format here up on the right-hand side. If you click that, there are a couple options that are helpful here. One is columns. You can put the whole chart into columns if that's helpful on saving space. Only problem is you'll notice if the lines are too long or the font is too big, Planning Center will begin breaking up the lines in a very weird way, and you don't want that. So you can play around with it. Sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not. Then font size here. We don't want to go any lower than 12. 12 is pretty normal. So there are other things to play with in here, but that is the basics of making a chord chart in Planning Center.